All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MDL Intro to UI/UX Figma Fundamentals Workshop. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat. I am Chloe. I'm one of the UI/UX co-leads on MDL this year, and I'm here with Chrisha and Francesca, who are part of the UI/UX team, and will be leading this workshop today.
Okay, so as Chloe said, welcome to this workshop. It's our very first workshop of the weekend, so we're really excited about that. So I guess back to the basics. Who is MDL? What is MDL? I'm assuming if you guys are here, you might have heard about MDL, but MDL stands for McMaster Design League, and we are running this UI/UX Designathon. We also run the annual in-person CAD Designathon, which is happening this January. So if you guys are interested in that, stay tuned. And throughout the entire school year, we also run additional workshops to assist and build students' skills in both CAD and UI/UX. So we have a whole team of people who are specialized to help you guys along the way with both of these skills. And to be informed for any updates on these events, our Instagram is the place to go for information about workshops, events, etc. And you can find us by scanning the QR code or just typing MDL McMaster into Instagram itself. So more specifically, what is the UI/UX Designathon? So we run this event every year, and at this Designathon, we allow you to essentially go through the entire UI/UX design process to help familiarize yourself with the workflow through building your projects. And some highlights of this Designathon are that you are able to solve industry problems. You're going to be able to present them to industry leaders, and then you're going to learn new skills. So example, even coming to these panels and workshops that are going to be run over the weekend, overcoming challenges, building your resume, and you also get a really, really cool MDL UI/UX Designathon certificate at the end of it, which is amazing for your LinkedIn. So hint, hint. But with these skills, you can also even possibly get hired at some really cool, innovative companies. And there's also a template, so to help guide you throughout this workshop, and it was given in the participant package for you guys to download. And if you guys downloaded it yesterday or like before this event, could you guys please re-download it because we updated it. So yeah, thank you.
All right, so this workshop is to help you all get your feet wet with both the concepts of UI and UX design, and we're going to be using the tool Figma to carry out all of these basic concepts. We're going to split the workshop into two. So the first part of the workshop will explain what UI UX is, why it's important, some basic principles and industries, also why it might be a skill you want to learn. And yeah, we're also going to be learning its applications, some important parts of design, and just talk about Figma, so the main platform of our workshop. Yeah, and then near the end or the second part of the workshop, we're going to be building your first UI UX design by doing a walkthrough with Chloe.
So what is UI, what is UX, and what's the difference, or is there a difference? Spoiler alert, there is a difference. So UI is user interface, and that's basically what the user interacts with. So everything you see, like the colors, the shapes, fancy visuals, transitions, that's all UI, like just the overall look and details of the product. And UX kind of might be self-explanatory, but it's how the user experiences your product. So it's the process and practice used to design and implement a product that will provide positive and relevant interactions with your users and make them leave your app or website happy, not stressed or annoyed with using it. And it also incorporates psychology, user personas, and understanding your user as a whole. So the basis of UI UX design is how these two components interact with each other and how they impact each other. And the goal is to basically optimize user interface for the best or targeted user experience. And the easy way to think about this is with this really cool little image we have on the slide. So the bottle on the left is like very pretty, it's got reflections, even some shadows. It looks very 3D, but the function isn't really there. So that's more UI. Whereas the bottle on the right like thinks about how the user is actually going to use it. And so it goes with something more convenient, like having the ketchup bottle upside down. So I, for one, when I'm using a ketchup bottle, and especially if it's upright, you're like knocking it against everything, trying to get the ketchup out. But if it's upside down or came with a bottle that's upside down, it's so much easier to use. You're not going to be annoyed every single time you try to squeeze ketchup onto your burger, for example. So that's kind of where user experience comes in. And overall, this image is just simple looking because it cares more about experience rather than the looks of it.
All right, so what is the importance of UI and UX? Well, to put it simply, it's an emphasis on positive user experience. That's what's most important. For example, like, have you ever been on an app or a website that's just impossible to navigate? Like, think of half of your university course websites. They're difficult to find what you're looking for, and they're incredibly ugly to look at. So if focus was on UI, UX, they would save time by navigating, and you would just also save money as more people would want to use your app. And you're just in general more likely to use an app you're going to enjoy, and instead of just giving up and choosing an alternative.
So usually the process starts with the UX aspect, so identifying key parts of the design problem that will affect the user experience. So this then moves into prototyping and then creating. And if you look at the general steps on the slide, we have empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and testing, and then retesting. So it's very similar to, if you guys are engineers, the engineering design process. So you start with asking questions like, what are you trying to accomplish? Who is your user base, etc. And then you try to define a problem. So exactly what are you trying to do to solve, what are you trying to solve or do with your application? And then next, you're going to go into thinking of as many ways as possible to solve that problem. And then in UX, you continue with prototyping, creating a wireframe, low fidelity to high fidelity prototyping. And then you get into the UI aspect. So it's like the icing on top, making it like pretty and everything like that. And there's just lots of testing, going back to the planning phase and then testing it again until you get a finalized product. So I might have just thrown a bunch of new words at you guys, especially if you're new to UI UX. So here's kind of like a few key UI UX vocab words from the previous slide. So a low fidelity is something like a wireframe, and a wireframe is basically the basic shell structure, like the skeleton of how the product will look. And it's usually very rough, somewhat ugly looking. It's pencil and paper sketches. You can also do on electronics, but you can sketch it out on your on paper. And there's usually no color or content, just structure. And that's the very first frame you see there on the picture on the slide. And then there's high fidelity, which is something like a prototype, and that's going to be what you guys are going to be handing in at the end of this Designathon. And so a prototype is an in-depth mock-up that includes both UI and UX aspects. So it could include transitions and animations of your solution to the problem. And it's more fleshed out and is a representation of your finished model, or like what your final product is going to look like. And for this UI UX in general, prototyping is very essential for users to be able to use and test your product, but also for us as designers to then find out what those issues are with the product, fix it, and then retest it again.
All right, so this workshop is mainly going to be focused around Figma. There are alternatives for creating UI UX designs, such as Mockflow, which we will be using during this Designathon if you choose to do their challenge, which I do recommend. So to create an account on Figma, you just click sign up, then enter your details, and don't forget to verify through your email. And then you could just answer some basic questions based on your goals and your personal interests, and then just click on File Browser, and then you're all set.
So Figma is the most popular UI UX software currently and is an industry standard. It has tools for almost all parts of the UI UX design flow. So there's real-time collaboration, there's interactive prototyping, there's a strong community which offers free widgets and plugins, generating ideas. You can use the mind maps, low fidelity prototyping, which you can create wireframes with in FigJam, and then there's also product management. But for this designathon, you are free to do whatever, and as Chrisha said earlier, we also do highly recommend using Mockflow as well.
We're going to be teaching you guys some basic Figma tools since this is a beginner workshop, but feel free to just mess around with it while we're talking, just to get a feel for the virtual space. But for now, Francesca and I are going to be briefly introducing some basics, and then afterwards, Chloe will show you guys a real live demonstration on UI design in Figma to just get you started. So let's start with frames. So frames are the foundational element of just UI design. They basically contain everything you add to a design. They allow you to choose an area of the canvas that you want to create a design in, similar to like artboards if you guys are drawers on any art softwares. But yeah, in Figma, you can also nest frames within other frames, allowing you to just create more complex designs, which we'll get into. Some other things you could do is, well, to create a frame, you could use the keyboard shortcut F, and then you could also just use custom sizes or preset sizes depending on the type of application. For example, if you want to create something for mobile devices or tablets or computer displays, it's up to you. It's very customizable.
So in order to have your designs come to life and be one step closer to being user-friendly, we need to add shapes and text. So these elements are what allow you to start building the basic parts of the UI. So to add shapes, you're going to have to click the rectangle tool icon on the top left corner. And from that drop-down menu, you can pick whatever shape or line you want and then even add images. And then to further edit these shapes, you go to the right-hand panel, and there you can find the fill and stroke menus to change the color and the weight and even opacity if you go further up on the panel. And if you go further down on this right-hand panel, you'll find the effects menu where you can go and if you want to get a little fancy, add a drop shadow or something. And then to add text, you just press the T on the upper left-hand panel, right 2 icons over from the rectangle icon, and or you can just hit T on your keyboard and it'll pull up the text box just the same.
Also, anything you add, like the previous frames, shapes, text, they all just count as layers, which can then be viewable on the left side of your screen, or I guess this would be left side of your screen under layers. And in addition to that, you can just also click a layer to select it. You can lock a layer so you don't make any accidental changes and ruin your whole UI design. You could also hide a layer, you could group layers and rearrange layers similar to how you do on Google Docs or Google Drawings.
Okay, so if you guys have any trouble with anything, just ask your questions in the Discord. By now, I'm pretty sure all you guys are on Discord, but if not, you can scan that and it'll bring you directly to our Discord server.
Okay, so now for the Figma workshop part of our presentation. We're going to quickly dive into making a very basic app for Figma, just to get you all familiar with some key controls, give out some useful tips. And I just want to remind you to re-download the template if you did it a long time ago, or if you just downloaded Figma, as some things need to be re-updated. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be redesigning the Mac Rec app. So if you don't go to McMaster or don't know what that is, over here, I have an example of what the old Mac Recreation app looks like. And if you want to just like think on your own, what are some elements of this app that maybe you might want to change? Things that make this app something you wouldn't want to go back to or actively use. I personally think some of them would be like, there needs to be better organization. It's a little hard to read. It's a little jarring to look at. And the design could be a lot more user-friendly if there was a bigger focus on consistency, colors, simplicity, and just a better functionality that makes it a lot more tidy. So I am going to jump into the Figma file now. If I share my screen again. Share screen. Okay. Okay, so over here we have Figma. So brief overview of the interface as we went over before. By the way, I recommend using a mouse. It just makes everything a lot easier. At the top bar over here, we have places you can add elements. You can choose to select, make frames, make shapes. You also have the name of your design file. Here on the left, you have those organizations and layers that Chrisha and Francesca were talking about earlier. And then if you're using a mouse, you can pan by clicking down the middle mouse button, or you can click up here to switch between select and pan. You can also use a mouse to scroll up and down. And you can zoom in by using Control plus or Control minus. Or if you're on a Mac, it might be Command. Not too sure. Okay, so first we're going to want to make some local styles. You should have on the left here, if you download the template to follow along, all of these guys. But we're going to want to make some local styles just so all of our text and colors are consistently the same and easy to access. So to do this, I put a little reference on the screen if you want to follow along. But we're going to go to the right here where it says local styles and click the add button. And first we're going to add these 6 colors that you see at the top. So you just hit add and then color. The first one I'm going to call maroon. And then if you click down here under properties, you can type in the hex code. So 701C4D. And then you can create a style and it'll be listed here on the right. So I'm just going to do that for all 6 of the colors. So as we're making design, as we go through the workshop, it'll be much easier for us to select different colors instead of going back and consistently writing in the different codes. Okay. Okay, and then our last one is white. FC. Okay, and then we're also going to be making 4 text styles. Kind of similarly, you hit the add button on the right and click text. And then you can name each of them. I'm going to just be naming them the same as you see on the screen. And I'll put the name here so that we know that's the text space I'm referencing. And here I'm going to type in Poppins. This is the font I want. And I'm going to choose semi-bold. And the size is 24. I'm going to call this one 24. And it'll appear on the right. And I'm going to do that again for all of them. Yeah, and if you see here at the bottom, there's an extra italic menu, which makes it easier to differentiate. And the last one. Semi-bold, then 60. Okay, so now that we have our styles, it's going to be really easy for us to make our design a lot more consistent and streamline the entire design process. If you want to see how this works, I'm going to zoom in here, and if I want to make a shape, I'll go up here and click the rectangle option. I can make a little rectangle, and then if I want the color of one of the ones listed up here, you can look at the property panel on the right, and I can click fill. And then if you look at this color panel, you're going to want to look at the bottom where it says document colors and switch that to local colors. And here you'll be able to see all our local styles. And I could just eyedropper, let's say maroon. And then now this is a maroon box. Or I could go back and make it gray, black, or any of the colors we already predefined. Same goes for text styles. If we want to add text, you can click this button up here. And I'm going to write, this is a test. And if I want to make it one of the styles I already pre-designed, I'm going to left click on it. I'm going to go to the right tab here. And where you see the text box, you're going to want to click these 4 dots, which is for style. And you can choose any one of our predefined styles. So let's just say I want it to be the title Poppins semi-bold. I can click that. And for the color, I can do similarly to the rectangle, where I go and click this little color square, go to local colors at the bottom, and I can make it any color I want. Okay, so Next thing I'm going to want to introduce you guys to are components, which are here on the left as would have been in your downloaded file. To make a component, you can make one pre-existing, and the reason they're like very essential in Figma is that they help to like create and manage consistent designs across your project, kind of like styles. And you can tell something's a component by this little diamond shape. So to create a component, say if I wanted to make a component out of these two boxes, I'm gonna make this guy yellow white so he's easier to see. I can highlight them both, and then you're gonna see the component icon here in the top of your bar. And then now you have a component. And the reason that the components are very interesting is that this is a main component as I just created it, and there are instances. So if I want to create duplicates of this, I can click on it. I'll hold down the Alt button on my keyboard. As you can see, when I hover over the component, there's now two mouses, and I can drag and create a second one. So an instant is like a copy of the component that you can reuse in your designs, but it's still linked to the main one, and it'll receive any updates you make to the main component. So if I go in here now, if I double click the rectangle to select it, and I make it like the gray, this one will also turn gray. But if I am clicking on the instance and I change this one back to maroon, the main component won't change. So all of these are different components that we're going to be using throughout our design, so that if we change anything through our design process, it's going to affect all of our panels, and we're not going to have to go through it one by one. Okay, so now that we have some basics down, we're going to go into creating our actual design. I'm going to pan over here. And the first thing you want to do is make those frames, as mentioned earlier. So you can click the F tool, or you can go up here to this little hashtag frame icon. And we're going to make an app today, like how was seen earlier. I'm going to make it, I don't know, iPhone SE. And here we'll have a little iPhone SE frame. Now, anything that we design can be placed on this frame. I'm going to make this one the login page. So if I want to create 3 different frames. So in order to do that, I can just copy and paste them, and they'll just go across the x-axis like that. The 3 designs we're making today are a login page, a home page, and then a schedule, similar to the recreation app we saw earlier. Okay, so on our login, first of all, one of the things we're going to need on each of our home pages to make it look like an iPhone is a status bar. So I'm going to Alt-click this status bar from our components at the side. I'm going to throw it up here. As you see, this is a little too big for the frame we made, so I can just take these bounding box and size it to our frame. And I'm just going to Alt-click off this to duplicate it into each of our frames. Okay. So, as you can see I'm using these red alignments to help me snap things into place, which is something that's really useful in Figma. You can put things in the center or snap them right to the top. Okay, next thing is this little McMaster recreation logo. You can import any photos that you want from your browser or from your laptop right into Figma. You can copy paste or you can upload them. So I just copied and pasted this little McMaster recreation logo, and I'm gonna drag and drop him onto my login page. And if I just pull on the bounding box on its own, it's gonna keep cropping and resizing it. So I want it to stay at its original dimensions. I'm gonna hit the Shift button on my keyboard, and I'm gonna hold it as I resize it. Okay. So now we have a little logo for our app. I'm gonna put it in the corner. And then we're gonna want a little greeting. So I'm going to add text. I'll zoom in so you can see better. And I'll just add a little welcome back. I'm gonna write my own name. Welcome back, Chloe. So once again, if I go to text, I click the 4 dots, I'm gonna make this a title. So it's nice and big. And I'm going to fill it to maroon. I'm gonna make another text. This one is going to say, yeah, I'm going to write a greeting for this. So we're so happy to see you again. And I'm going to make, okay, I'm going to make this also a smaller text. So it's I'm using the medium italic, and I'm going to make it a light gray. Actually, there we go. That one looks pretty good. I'm also going to center everything with those alignment elements I mentioned earlier. I'm going to zoom back out, and I'm going to drag and drop some of our components from earlier. I'm going to want a button, which we're going to locate at the bottom of the screen for convenience of anyone who's using it on an iPhone. And then I'm going to add some fields that people can type into if they want to sign in. So I'll add one. I'll add another one. Keep the sizing the same. And this one, we're going to want a password. So I'm just going to double click until, well, when you first double click, you're going to get into the component itself, and then double click again to select the text. Double click after that to select the text itself to type. I'm going to add some stars so it looks like a password. And then I'm going to also want to add a forgot password button. So I'll just add another text, forgot password, question mark. And I'm going to want to align it to the right. And I will put in a same text style as earlier, medium. Let me align it again. And I'll change the fill to our preset color. Okay, here we have a login page. I'm going to want to align these a little more upwards because everything's a little crowded at the bottom. But you can just drag and select to highlight, and it allows you to move multiple components at one time. And then if you hold shift, you can move it on just one axis. So right now I'm just moving it up and down the y-axis, so things don't get shifted horizontally. Okay, for our next page, we're going to be making these schedules. And I'm going to copy and paste this text into here, just Control-C, Control-V for simplicity, and I'll write schedules. I'm going to align that to the center of our frame. I also want to put a navigation bar for these two. What's it called? For these two frames. So I'm gonna take our component from earlier. I'm gonna hold Alt and I'm gonna click and drag, and I'm going to align this to the bottom, kind of similar to where our login bar is. I'll do that one more time. Okay. Now I'm going to take this icon. And this is a nice, simple square, which there's an emoji in. And I'm going to use these to tile in the different activities that our Mac Recreation app will have. So once again, I'll just Alt, click, and drag. I'll do this a couple times. Now, you can see there's a bit of a problem here, where this doesn't fit exactly into our frame. So first I'm going to copy and paste and make 4 of them. Try and even out the spacing between them. And then I can drag and select all of them. And then when I hit the shift button, I can size them down so they're better fitting within our frame. So I'll size them down like that. And I can center them right below our text. Okay. If we're going to want to change these to different sports, we can double click on one of our components, double click into the text. And I'll make this one intramurals. This one drop in. And I can make this one basketball. I couldn't think of any other sports. That's okay. And to change some of these icons, if you don't want only swimming, you can actually use this cool thing in Figma called plugins. So if you go up here, you can add plugins by, well, first of all, here are your components if you were just to open it for the first time. And I'll show you all the different components that we had listed earlier, which would be in this left bar. you're going to want to click plugins in this top tab. And because we want emojis, you can search up emoji and just choose one of them to download and use. So once you click on one, I'm going to start searching for different sports that will fit the theme. So maybe like basketball. I'm going to drag and drop this into the bottom for now, just so we have all our icons. I can get like tennis. And it's another sport. Get soccer. And I'm going to close the plugin, and now we have these icons we can work with. So one of the easy ways to do this is you can just double click and delete any of these. Oh, I forgot to delete it. Just double click and then hit the backspace button on your keyboard, and you can get rid of any of the ones we're not going to be using. And then you can drag and drop these into the frame and size them down holding Shift again. Try and align them so they look nice. Oh, okay, hold on. I messed these two up. This one should be dropping. This is basketball. All right, and that should be our schedules tab, a little easier to navigate, a little cleaner to look at. And then finally, this is our home tab. Now we're gonna make our schedule, which shows like the calendar. Actually, I'll rename this to calendar. This one should be schedule. So for this one, we're gonna use our schedule item component that we have over here. If you can alt click it, I'll make like 3 of them. I'll actually make 2. So have your schedule for the day. And then first I want to add like a little title for this page. I'll copy and paste this one in. So Control-C, Control-V. I'll drag it over here. And let's say this is looking at the drop-in. I want to match the alignment to the left. And then I'll add a bar here to switch between, say, day, week, and month for the different drop-ins. Just let me put these down a bit more. So to do this, I'm going to go to the top bar over here, and I'm going to choose the rectangle element, and I will just drag it across for now temporarily, something about that size. And then we can round the corners if you go to the right panel over here for the design, and you can make it as rounded as you want. So you can do it by typing in like a number, let's say 60, if you want everything to be consistent, or if you want something to just slightly adjust, you can drag and it'll keep going across your screen, and you can keep dragging until it's something you're happy with. So I'll just keep it at like 60 for now. And now I'm going to resize this, holding Shift to cover the same width as the rest of our elements. And I'm going to make this using our local styles a light gray color. And now I'm going to want to make like different selection options. So to do this, I'm going to control copy and paste it. And then I'm going to keep this one at the same width. So the width of this one is 43. So I'm going to make sure that's the same. So yeah, height is 43. And then the width, I'll change it down to 1/3 of that. So instead of around 300, well, let's make it 100. I'll align that to the corner. And I'm going to use the fill option and make this one also maroon. Now we're going to want to choose make our 3 different selections. So I'm going to go to the top, hit text, and this one is going to be for the day. As you can see, this is way too big, so I'm going to go to our text styles. I'm going to choose like, maybe not medium italic. I'll choose medium as semi-bold, and I'll center that on this element. I'm going to control copy and control paste that, and then I'll just put this one in the middle. I'll make this one a darker color so it stands out on this light background, maybe a dark gray. And this one we're going to call week. Center that again. And then I'm going to control copy and paste that. And this one we're going to call month. If you want to align these more evenly, you can shift click on all of them to individually select them. And over here, you can see some alignment options. So if I want to make sure the bottoms of all of them are aligned, I can click this button. So we know they're all like horizontally the same now. And then you can distribute the horizontal spacing using either Alt-Shift-H or by clicking this button. So they're a bit better horizontally, but because they each have different text boxes, it looks a little wonky. So I'm going to put this back in the middle. And now we can make these different schedule options for whoever's using our app. So I had badminton earlier. I'll make one of these basketball. And this can be from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. Also, we're going to want, since I selected day here, we're going to want to tell our user what day it is. So I'm going to shift and drag over these to select them. I'm going to hold shift and drag them down a bit more so we can make space to describe what day it is to our user. And I'll click the text button up here, click to select, and I'll write Tuesday, September 12th. And I click this again, go back to our styles of the text option, and I'll click medium 14. Actually, I want it to be one of the semi-bold ones. I'll click semi-bold 16. I'll align it to the right with the same spacing. And let me see what else there is. Oh, we're going to also want a back button. So after someone selected this, when they're in this page, but they want to know that there's a way to navigate back out, maybe instead of this bar. So I'll drop this down to align it with the schedules tab a bit more, and I'll add a back button. So to do that, we'll just go to our text, click on the top, and I'll write back. I'll make this a little more subtle, use one of our smaller text styles, and I'll use the gray color. Put that in the corner. Which of these styles do I like? I like that one. Okay. And this should help navigation. Okay. So that should be like how to create a very basic Figma design. Any of these items can basically just be created by using these shapes in the corner. If you say wanted to create this icon bar, you can go to rectangle, drag across to the size that you want. You can adjust the width to maybe 300 to make it a little more even. You can change the color by using our local colors again in the fill section, clicking light gray. And then if I click this rectangle, you can see that it's rounded by 100. So I'm going to click this one and round this one to 100. It'd be a little hard to see because of the color. Actually, I'll put something behind it. So if I make a box like this, using our rectangle tool, I can select the black color. And you can see with both these layers I created are in the left panel. So I'm going to drag and select this and put it right underneath the other one. So now we can see our bar better while I'm designing this. And now if we want these little icons, we can use plugins like I used earlier if you don't want to go through the whole effort of creating them. Click on icons and then choose, you can use any of the recommended ones. They're third party, some of them, but they give you access to a very wide range of commonly used icons. Say I wanted to make the calendar. I'm gonna type that in, search, give it a minute, and I can choose any of them. Say I like this one better now. It'll appear here on my screen. And then if I wanted to recolor it, I can make another rectangle and go over it and then use this. By clicking on it, I'm going to select the fill color of maroon. And if I want this to become maroon, I'm going to drag it over, select both of them, and in the top bar by that component button, you're going to see a mask button. So if I click that, it's going to recolor our element. Oh. So you can do this with all the different icons. Just to show you quickly, I'll drop one more in. I go back to the plugin, click on use icon duck, basketball. I'm going to use something that is a single color, just so it looks nicer in a mask. I'll do that again. So I'll drag my element down here, get a square, bring it over, go to our fill tool. I'll choose a similar gray, this dark gray that we have. I'm going to drag and select both of them, click the mask button, and now we have a basketball. So if I make a couple more of these, I'm just going to control copy, control paste. And then if we want to align them better, you can use, once again, distribute horizontal spacing, which will distribute them between these two. Or what I can do is I can click all my elements. I'm just shift clicking all of them, and I can use auto layout. Now using auto layout will let me, if this works correctly, it should let me space between them. I'm having trouble. Give me a second. Okay, hold on. We're going to redo that. It's not working. Okay. I'm going to bring these back again. Put this underneath. I think I selected the wrong thing. That's probably why. Okay. Bear with me. This is a little dark. I'll change the color of it. Okay, I'm going to bring all of these elements back. I'm going to select this and put it to the back. I'll put all of these guys on it. And if I click this and all of these, I should be able to lay them out better. Okay, well, you can align them using any function up here, and that'll just help you make it work better and make it look a lot nicer without having to look at the numbers too much. But yeah, you can use any Figma frame you want to make it for any iPhone app, but that is basically the tutorial on how to create a Figma file. You can organize your layers on the left more if you'd like, but this is just basics of how to make getting you used to the Figma interface and used to creating some of the basic things like styles and components. Let me go back to the workshop. Okay. So, all right. Well, thank you all for coming. If you have any questions, please ask them in the chat. And we really appreciate you coming out to the Designathon.